So one day, 6 months ago on April 21st, 2014, my world was flipped upside down. I was driving from Pearl City area on Moanalua Freeway going towards town. I had just left a work-related appointment and I was headed back to my office. I remember the roads were kind of slick. It was raining that day. And there is a large black SUV to my left side. And I remember seeing it in my peripheral vision and feeling it inching closer and closer to me. In the few moments after that, it felt unreal. My car has lost control and I began to swerve back and forth amongst the 4 lanes of the freeway. Afterwards, I spun out of control, did a complete 180, saw the oncoming traffic and the cars approaching me before flipping completely upside down on the side of the freeway. I remember hanging upside down. Luckily, I had on my seatbelt that morning, and it kept me secure in my seat even while I was upside down. I looked to my right and saw the cars passing by me, and I felt like I was going to die that day. I wasn't sure if the car was going to catch fire. I wasn't sure if other cars had lost control and had crashed as well. I just knew that I had to have a way out of that car. And I went completely into survival mode and fight or flight mode. Afterwards, I remember that the window had completely burst out. I undid my seatbelt and I put my arms over my head like this and fell to the roof of the car. I remember seeing the light and crawling towards the outside of the car, and in the moments following that, people were rushing towards me, wanting to help me. My whole body was in shock and I wasn't sure what had just happened. I didn't feel anything and I hadn't realized the severity of what had happened. I remember I was crying and screaming, but it felt like an out-of-body situation where it felt unreal. I didn't know what had happened. Somebody called the ambulance and there was a firefighter who had pulled over and had put his arms around my head to keep me secure. I remember telling everyone thank you in between gasps and breaths and screams, but I knew that I was going to be late for my 1 o'clock appointment and I wanted to go. Of course, they didn't let me go. They took me to the hospital, to the ER on a stretcher. It felt like time moved very quickly from being on the side of the road to being in the ER of the hospital. I was on a table, a long, narrow table, and a group of 10 nurses and doctors were all around me, doing tests, taking blood, hooking me up to IVs. They stripped my clothes off, cut them off, and started doing tests. I felt scared and vulnerable and exposed and curious about what was going on and what would happen. Everything else was fuzzy, but I remember my friend coming and my boss coming and assuring me that everything would be okay. That night when I went back home to my home, I began to feel the impact of the car accident on my body. Everything felt like it was in complete pain. My back hurt, my legs hurt, my head hurt, my arms hurt, everything was sore. Later that week, I went to the doctor and found out that my spine had been knocked out of alignment, that I had chondromalacia in my knee, and that I had had a mild concussion causing my headaches and spurts of forgetfulness. I couldn't imagine what would happen or how I would heal. I thought I was going to be okay within a matter of days. But of course, the healing process took longer. It took months of strong physical therapy, medical appointments. I went from being a 24-year-old, fearless, strong, independent person to feeling anxious, fearful, weak, in pain all the time. I knew that wasn't how I wanted to live the rest of my life, and I did the work that it required to become stronger. I dedicated myself to going to physical therapy, to doing stretches, to doing exercises, not allowing myself to stay at home and to stay fearful. Later on, I knew that I wanted to inspire others with my story so that I could make a change, that others wouldn't have to go through what I went through. I ended up becoming a crash survivor advocate, and I wanted to raise awareness about auto and highway safety. Now I've committed my life to sharing my story, to meeting with political leaders, with Carl Rhodes at the state capitol, with people where I can make a difference in my story. I can inspire others to value and respect each other on the road so that we can be safe going to and from where we need to go to.